In this tutorial, we'll look at some fortune cookie messages, which were created by the students using the ChatGPT or Gemini or other AI chatbots. And we'll analyze the sentiment score. So the sentiment H is what the students, as a human judgment, gave in terms of sentiment. Some of the prompts were negative. So write a concise fortune cookie message with ominous foreboding, and the other messages were positive, glad with glad tidings. So that's where we get the P and N. So sentiment H has the human judgment. Sentiment T is going to be using Python. We'll use the library text blob. And then sentiment V will be using the Python library Vader, which is part of NLTK. We already have some code here in the sentiment analysis notebook. And basically, we'll be using these functions. The function for text blob is this. We send in the text blob will return the score. And then the function for Vader will be this. Okay. And we send in the text, you return the score. So how do we construct a brand new Google Colab Python script that takes this Google Sheet and then gets all the data and then fills in the sentiment analysis? So let's get started. First, I'll copy this URL, copy this, and then go here. In using the AI, I'll say load this URL as pandas data frame df. Okay. And you should put the code using AI into this box, into the cell. Once the data is there, we can confirm it looks good. It has all the spreadsheet data, and then we can run it. Always accept and run if you think it's safe and it looks right. Okay. And so the next step after you get the data is you have to access some of these columns. So definitely you want to access the messages. And the reason it's only showing the first five is because we have the uh, data frame display data frame dot head, and that shows you the first five. If we type in just in Colab df, and then run it, it'll show you all 210. Of course, there's some in the middle that's the dot 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 that's hidden. So the next command using Python is to get the messages. So if we are just learning Python, pandas library, you would type in df open bracket, close bracket, quotation mark. I think it's messages. That was the column title, message. So you type in message. Let's see what happens. Run it. So you get only that column of data. So this is only the messages. So maybe we want to run a for loop and um, add those two sentiments to add to the column. So to make life easy, I'm not going to go step by step. I'll just say um, using AI to write the code. Sometimes I like to use 3.0. It's slightly better and more accurate. Gemini 3.0 Pro model. You're going to say um, in the new cell, give it instructions. Um, in the app, read every message uh, and then and and we actually do need the two functions. Right now, they don't, this doesn't have the awareness of the two functions. So before we actually do this, that's the logic should be we have to paste in those two function codes. So we're going to go to the text analysis, copy this stuff. Okay. Notice that the library pandas PD is already in here. If you look at the top, that's already in here. So we don't need it again. So we do need to import text blob because that's the function. And for the Vader stuff, we need to import the Vader library. And this is here. It's here. We need to analyze these. I mean, copy these in here. Okay. And that's gonna go in the very top. So you only in this cell only. So you don't have to run it again and again. You'll just execute this cell. If you run it, nothing's gonna happen, just loading in these functions. Um, Now we need to get the actual function date, the code. So we have it right here. So this is the definition of the function code. Okay, we'll put it on the next cell. And the other definition for Vader is going to be, we'll copy it below it. It's okay to put it in the same cell. Okay, so that's the Vader one. And then the text blob one is here. Okay. So now we have inside this notebook these two functions. Now we can ask the AI um, to use the functions in the data frame. That big thing we imported for every message. Um, Maybe I'll just say for every message because for is the command in Python too. For every message, um, use these two functions, this function and this function to uh, calculate, not calculate, but to derive. You can use anywhere. I think the AI is pretty forgiving about what keywords you use. The scores and add them into the, what's the column name? So we should, I think it's sentiment T and sentiment, add them into sentiment T and sentiment V. Let's see if he understands this command. We have to make sure we put this into the generate into this cell. So I just clicked on generate. Now it's gonna run. And it's gonna take a few seconds. So I'll explain a little bit what it's trying to do. It has knowledge of these two functions. So we're gonna request that it read this column, the message column, and for each of the text of each of the messages to derive or calculate or produce the score using the function and put it into the cell that corresponds to that message. So I think the AI is intelligent enough to see that pattern given this prompt. We'll see what comes back inside this cell as it's writing this code. It's very important to import the libraries here. Sometimes you want to import the libraries in the very top so you don't forget, maybe up here. And also import. So often we move all the import commands in the very first top cell. And so it has generated this. It's saying the df sentiment t equals df message, apply the sentiment analysis. And then for all the sentiment v, apply the messages, and then display the results. So it's very concise code. Let's see if it looks okay. Oh, something went wrong, so the AI is not very happy. Not so. Oftentimes we ask the AI to correct itself, and I think it's already trying to self-correct and working. But if you want to, you can click on explain error. Yeah, it's already processing our request. So the error is it's setting the messages and it's calling the function. It might be the apply keyword. So we'll pause here and see how it does. It seems like the mistake is I did not run the cell above here. So if I had run it, it would have worked. But instead, the AI copied that code and put it above here. So that's into the same cell. So let's run and see if it works. Okay, let's look at the final two columns. It has these scores. Um, so that looks fine. I think pretty much we're done. Now, the next step is um, we want to write some code to uh, copy the copy this new or update the Google Sheet. So we want to give the Python code the ability in Colab to fill in this data directly on this Google Sheet. If you want to be safe, you can create a new Google Sheet altogether and put that data into a new Google Sheet. Maybe we'll try that first, and then if we want to be ambitious, we can just edit and fill in this data. But first, let's just create a new Google Sheet. So that's pretty easy. Since Google Colab and Google Sheet are both under your same Google account, what you can do is you can say, um, create a new Google Sheet and copy DF into it. That's all we're doing. We're creating a new Google Sheet. Okay, so let's run that and see how it goes. So the code has been generated by Gemini. It looks like this. And then we'll accept and run and let it execute. Of course, you have to give it some permissions because it's writing to your Google Sheet. So you have to allow and continue and so on. Okay, now it has the rights to create a new Google Sheet under your Google account. It says successfully created, and then let's click on it and see what it looks like. Okay, I think it looks pretty good. We have finished this exercise. What you can do with the data is you can compare the human uh, sentiment manually scored against the two models and see which model is closer. You can do it here. You can just say this equals minus this, and then accept. And then for the other one, this equals this minus this. So that's like the sentiment T difference, sentiment V difference. And you can get this. And then you can get the average of these two. So you can equals average. Okay. And then the same with here. You can even drag it. Yeah. So it appears this text blob is the difference is slightly less. You can do the same thing in Python. Um, if you go add an Excel and say generate calculate the average difference between um, sentiment H and sentiment T, and and we can just write sentiment H and sentiment V. And you should be able to do this quickly. It's better to put it in the script than to do it manually in the spreadsheet or using a mouse in the spreadsheet, because you can run it as many times as you want. You can make changes. It's much more manageable and maintainable. Whereas here, it's difficult to know even how we did this formula and so on. Okay, so we'll let it generate the code, and then we'll see, compare the two differences. Of course, we can always write the Python code ourselves, but there's a lot of syntax, and some of this is You can memorize the syntax, you can type it out, or you can use AI. But you have to make sure you have enough reading skills. You can comprehend what's going on to know that it's doing the right thing. Okay, let's accept them. So the difference is zero point 0.5 and the difference is negative zero point 0.6. And that's very, I think it should be exactly, yeah, zero point 0.6, negative zero point 0.5. Okay, good enough. So, so we'll end here. And of course, we named this file. Um, Sentiment. We can name it whatever we want. Okay. If you had wanted to update this, you could have, instead of the prompt, um, instead of the prompt, create a new, you can say, update this and give it the URL and then fill in those two columns. Um, that might be you might make more mistakes in editing this Google Sheet, so make sure you have a backup copy or you're allowed to revert and save different versions. Okay, I think we'll stop here. This is your Python code, and we'll end this for now. See you in the next class.